Testing Herald-Standard live stream. Okay, it's 9:33.
Ready?
You think you're ready? We will go live.
Hello, welcome everyone to Herald-Standard coverage of primary 2016. My name is Mark O'Keefe. I'm the editorial page editor of the Herald-Standard. With me tonight is Bill Long. Bill's a member of the Herald-Standard editorial board. And we'll be here tonight to give you the election results, both from statewide races and also local races. Of course, tonight the big night is the presidential nominations for both Republican and Democratic parties. On the Democratic Party, we have Hillary Clinton, who is being challenged by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. And on the Republican ticket, we have three candidates. Donald Trump is the front runner, and we also have Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and we have Ohio Governor John Kasich. So it should be a very, very interesting night. Everybody was saying pretty much that they thought that the pollsters had Trump and Clinton winning, so we'll see how it shakes out here. And we do have some results in, with about 12, almost 13% of the vote in. And we do have on the Democratic ticket, we have Hillary Clinton with 30.32% of the vote in, 203,000 votes. Bernie Sanders, 43.71%. People have been talking about a 10% difference there, so that's about 12 points there. Probably a little bit too early with only 12% in to officially call it, but it looks like a pretty good showing for Hillary Clinton so far. And on the Republican ticket, we have Donald Trump in first place, 57%, with 143,291 votes. Followed by Ted Cruz with 21.36%, 52,863 votes. And we have John Kasich in third place, 18% of the vote, 45,160. And that's probably better showing than what they were saying, probably maybe a 15% victory. They were calling for Donald Trump, and right now he looks like he has a fairly convincing lead there of 36%. Of course, it's only 13% of the vote in, so we'll see. Let's look down. We have a couple other big statewide races. We have the United States Senator. We have three candidates running here to oppose the Republican incumbent, Pat Toomey, who's running unopposed tonight. And we have Katie McGinty is in first place, 44%. 139,004. In second place, Joe Sestak, 30%, with 94,862 votes. And in third place is John Fetterman with 25% of the vote, with 80,526 votes. Actually, Fetterman was probably doing a little bit better maybe than what people had thought. Sestak was leading up until maybe the last week. A lot of polls had Katie McGinty, who was supported by President Obama and also Vice President Joe Biden. She's been coming on pretty strong. And let's look at Attorney General. We have three Democrats and two Republicans. Kathleen Kane had decided not to seek re-election. And in first place here, we have Josh Shapiro. Well, no, we have Stephen Zappala with 44.26%. 149,032. Josh Shapiro in second place, 42.38%, 142,699 votes. And in third place, John Morganelli, 13%, 44,971 votes. And that's very interesting. Stephen Zappala the Allegheny County District Attorney. Josh Shapiro is the Montgomery County Commissioner. So he kind of has the eastern part, and Stephen Zappala has the western support there. So that's a very interesting race there. We'll see how that goes. And on the Republican, we have a state senator, John C. Rafferty Jr. He has 62%, 120,897, against Joseph C. Peters. He's a prosecutor in the federal and state drug law enforcement, and he has 38%. It's with 74,087. So it looks like Mr. Rafferty is off to a pretty good start there. So we want to take a look. Maybe let's take a look at the Fayette County votes and see where they're coming in at here. A lot of talk about Hillary Clinton. She did so well back in 2008 when she ran against President Obama for the Democratic Party nomination, and here she has 58% here, 3,809. Bernie Sanders 39% with 2,567 votes, which it's a good margin for Hillary. Obviously, almost 20 points, but that is less than when she ran in 2008. She had 79% of the vote here in Fayette County. It was the best. She did better here than she did anywhere else in the state. And on the Republican, you have Donald Trump. He has 71% of the vote here, 3,107. We have Ted Cruz with 16%, 719. John Kasich, 10%, 452. A lot of people were thinking that Donald Trump was going to be the winner here in Fayette County, but that's a pretty. I think that's probably more than what most people had thought. 71 to 15%. That's pretty incredible there. So let's look down, see what the other races here in Fayette County. We have Katie McGinty's doing well in Fayette County, 51%, 3,188 votes. Joe Sestak, 22%, 1,421. John Fetterman's actually in second place in Fayette County, beating Joe Sestak here, which is pretty interesting. Of course, John Fetterman, kind of an interesting guy, mayor of Braddock, so maybe people might be a little bit more familiar with him. But the votes still are early. Let's look at Attorney General. We have Stephen Zappala, obviously 69%, particularly with his Allegheny County, Western Pennsylvania ties. You would expect that he would be doing well. And Josh Shapiro in second place, 23.7%, and John Morganelli in third place, 7.22%. Over on the Republican side, John Rafferty, 63% to Joe Peters, 36%. So pretty interesting there. We do have a race in the 52nd district legislative race. We want to take a look at that, but so far let's look at representative in Congress, the 9th district. We have Bill Schuster, longtime incumbent, facing Art Halverson, and this is very far-flung. And we have Bill Schuster 53% of the vote, and Art Halverson 46%. I'm not sure what the vote total is in so far. It's in 21%, but that's probably a little bit closer than Mr. Schuster certainly would like, but also Mr. Halverson probably was hoping that he would be doing a little bit better. But it's early, 21% of the vote. There's still a lot there to go through. Let's look at the legislative races. We do have 3 legislative races tonight. We have the 52nd, where we have a race there between Jim Murray. It's a representative in the General Assembly. We have Jim Murray is running against Lloyd Williams. Jim is a tax collector. It's the 52nd, and it's in Jim is tax collector for North Union Township, and Lloyd is a former Uniontown school board member. And this district takes in parts of Fayette and Westmoreland County, and boy, it's really close. 50% of Jim Marai at 50.45 to Lloyd Williams 49.55, 1,728 to 1,697. Wow, that's what 31 votes. That's pretty darn close. So let's look at the 49th. Pete Daly, long time, been in office for 39 years, stepped down. We have 6 Democrats that are running, and in first place, I can't imagine that's very many votes. 113 votes. It's probably only a couple precincts. But Alan Benyak, an attorney, 51%, followed by Dawn Henderson, 29%, Mark Alterisi, 11%, Robert Kepix, Monongahela Mayor, 3.62%, Randy Barley, 1.81%, and Brandon Gray, California University student, at 2.71%. And on the Republican, we have Melanie Patterson. Again, there's not many votes, 96 votes, but she is doing a good job so far, 79%. To Bud Cook, who has 25 votes. Let's look at the 58th. Ted Harhides retiring there after 20 years. And we have 2 Democrats that are running, and we have no votes in there. We have Mary Popovich, the mayor of West Newton, running against Charles Murlack, Menneson businessman. The Republican attorney, Rostraver Township attorney Justin M. Walsh is unopposed. So I'm going to go back to state results and maybe see if we have anything new with that. But yeah, some interesting results. Donald Trump looks like another big night both here in Fayette County and in Pennsylvania.
He certainly is a character,
and he's doing very well. So
he is the front runner.
Okay, we have 36% of the vote in now for statewide, and Hillary Clinton. It looks like she's got a little bit bigger lead now, up to 14%, 56%, 317,919 votes. Bernie Sanders, 42%. To 241,819 votes. And on the Republican, Donald Trump maintaining that there's only one way to describe it, it's pretty impressive. 57% in 223,652 over Ted Cruz, 21%, and John Kasich, 18%. You know, there's been talk about Kasich and Cruz trying to go together. Well, even if they were together here, that 39% wouldn't be enough to stop Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has pretty much been getting 35 to 40% of the vote across the country. So this is pretty impressive showing by Mr. Trump here, 57%. I don't know that anybody quite saw this coming. Let's look at the United States Senator. Okay, we have, once again, with about a third of the votes in now, Katie McGinty, 44%, Joe Sestak, 31%, John Fetterman, 24%. Joe Sestak had run 6 years ago, back in 2010. He ran against Pat Toomey and came very close at the time, but 6 years later, he's not doing so well here. So we'll see. Fetterman is probably doing better than what maybe a lot of people thought. 24%. You wonder, he did support Bernie Sanders. Maybe he's getting some of that Sanders support. Let's look at Attorney General. We have Stephen Zappala. Josh Shapiro is in the lead now. These two have been going back and forth all night. Josh Shapiro has 44%. Stephen Zappala has 42%. And in third place is, I believe he's Northampton District Attorney John Morganelli, 13%. He ran back against Tom Corbett when Tom Corbett was Attorney General and lost. Doesn't look too good for him tonight. And on the Republican side, State Senator John Rafferty, who had the support of the Republican Party establishment, has 62% against Joe Peters, 37%. So it doesn't look too good for Mr. Peters there. So let's go back and see if we have any more results from Fayette County. Okay, with 50% of the vote in now for Fayette County, and we have Hillary Clinton with 58%, to Bernie Sanders to 40%. Hillary has 6,298 votes, and Bernie Sanders has 4,324 votes. And on the Republican side, we have Donald Trump with 70% of the vote, and Ted Cruz 17%, and John Kasich 10%. So again, Donald Trump is doing very well here in Fayette County, and I think there had been one poll that I saw where Trump and Cruz were tied at 26% in Fayette County, but we're certainly not seeing any numbers like that here tonight. Certainly a very impressive win so far for Donald Trump. Let's look at the United States Senate. It's the second one, added from 24%. Let's look at Fayette County again and see where Fayette County is voting here. Yeah, pretty impressive numbers there for Donald Trump. I think they were talking that he also had to lead in other states, Maryland and
Connecticut, yes.
Rhode Island tonight. So
he was a projected winner.
Okay, we have Attorney General here in Fayette County. We have Stephen Zappala, 69%, with 7,534 votes. Josh Shapiro, 23%, at 2,556 votes there. And on the Republican, we have John Rafferty, 62% to 37% for Joe Peters. Let's look at the U.S. Senate race in Fayette County here. Oh, we do have some results here for Fayette County. For the 49th district, we have Ellen Benyak, 331 votes, 49%, and we have Don Henderson, 26%, second place. Mark Alterisi, third place, 12%. Robert Kepix, Brandon Garay, and Randy Barley, all kind of lower there. Now, we're not real sure exactly what the percentage is for that. Most of that district is in Washington County. But on the Republican, we have Melanie Patterson leading 70% to 29%. So let's look up top there, that U.S. Senate race. And okay, now we got 40% and vote in. Hold on. Okay, we got Sestak with, we've got McGinty 44%, Joe Sestak 31%, and John Fetterman 23%. It's going to be very difficult, you would think, for Joe Sestak to turn that around with that amount of votes in. Let's look at the president. Yeah, pretty okay. We have Hillary with 56%, and Bernie Sanders 42%, Hillary with 334, and Bernie with 255. Now Donald Trump, his numbers are starting to come down maybe a little bit, 58%. That's still pretty good. Ted Cruz 21%, and John Kasich 18%. Let's look at the Attorney General. Okay, we have Josh Shapiro 44% now, and Stephen Zappala 41%, and John Morganelli 14%. That Shapiro and Zappala race looks like that might go down to the wire there. That looks like that's going to be pretty close. And we have the Republican side. We have John Rafferty 62% to Joe Peters 37%. So let's take a look again at Fayette County and see if we have some more precincts in there. Okay, I think we got 75, 60 out of the 80 precincts reporting, and we have Hillary at 58%. Not as good as she did back in 2008, but a pretty solid victory, almost 20 points over Bernie Sanders, with 6,298 votes. Bernie Sanders 4,324. On the Republican, Donald Trump is killing it in Fayette County, 70% of the vote. Ted Cruz 17%, John Kasich 10%. Let's look at that U.S. Senate race there below in Fayette County. Okay, we got Katie McGinty's winning here, pretty solid margin, 51%. Joe Sestak 23%, John Fetterman 25%. John Fetterman beating Joe Sestak in Fayette County. I don't think too many people thought that would happen. Let's look at Attorney General. We have Stephen Zappala, 7,534, 69% of the vote. Josh Shapiro, 23% of the vote. And on the Republican, we have John Rafferty, 62%, and we have Joe Peters, 37%. Let's look and see the congressional race, see if we have any more updated figures for that. That's where longtime incumbent Bill Schuster is running against a businessman, Art Helverson, former retired Coast Guard officer in the 9th district we're looking at here. Okay, we have Bill Schuster, well, that's a very close race, 51% with 21,095, and Art Helverson, 48% of the vote, 20,139.
What percentage is in?
We're not sure. I think it's hard to tell because it's all the congressional districts. There's no uniform there. So that you're looking at 41% out of the entire state. And that probably there probably are some areas where Bill Schuster might do a little bit better. So, but the longer this goes on, the tougher it's going to be, although you can see that's only a matter of, it's less than 2,000 votes. So that's definitely a very close watch and one that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Let's look at the legislative races. We have the 49th, the 52nd, and the 58th that we're looking at in the represented in the General Assembly. We have three races here, as we talked about before. You have two Democrats in the 52nd. The Republican incumbent, Ryan Warner, is running unopposed tonight, so the winner will face him in November. And this was very close before. So the 52nd, let's take a look at that first. Okay, we have James Marais, still very close, 50% to Lloyd Williams, 49%. Jim has 2,234 and Lloyd has 2,149. Very, very close race there. Jim is North Union Township tax collector, and Lloyd is former Uniontown school board member. Let's look at the 49th. We have 6 candidates there on the Democratic side, vying to replace longtime incumbent Pete Daly, and Alan Benyak. Again, not very many votes though. So I'm not sure if we don't have many from maybe Washington County, but certainly so far Alan Benyak is doing very well with 49% of the vote. I mean, he's pretty much on his way to a landslide victory if these numbers hold up. Don Henderson second, 26%. Mark Alterisi third at 12%, and then trailing are Brandon Gray, Robert Kepix, and Randy Barline. And on the Republican side, again, not a whole lot of votes. 339 votes. Melanie Patterson, 79%, against Bud Cook, 29%. Let's see if we have anything in on the 58th. Ted Harhigh, after 20 years, stepping down here, and you have 2 Democrats that are running, and we still don't have any votes in from Westmoreland County. Well, and what that tells you then is that we don't have votes probably for Schuster's district, because that does include part of Westmoreland County, so we may not have, that may be where that part of that district is not reporting. Like we said before, Mary Popovich, the mayor of West Newton, and running against Menneson businessman Charles Merlack. And on the Republican side, Justin M. Walsh is running unopposed. He's a Rostraver Township attorney. So let's look and see if we have any more of an update on the presidential race. The numbers seem to be coming in at a pretty good clip here for Pennsylvania. I'm sure that by now the networks probably are with their exit polling. So we got 42% of the vote in. So let's see where we got now. We have Hillary 56% to Bernie Sanders 42%, 14 points. That's, the pollsters were saying it was going to be 10 points. So that's probably doing a little bit better. I'm sure it's not a good night for Bernie Sanders. Has to be pretty disappointed. And a very good night for Hillary. And then on the Republican side, as we've been talking about all night, Donald Trump, a major victory there, 57% to Ted Cruz, 21%, and John Kasich, 18%. For Donald Trump, it gives him more clout when it comes to the convention. Of course, we'll have to see how this all breaks down with the delegates and how many delegates he actually is able to win tonight. We could take a look at the delegates count up there under the offices. Let's see, the delegate to the Republican National Convention. Let's look at the 9th Congressional District. That's where we're running. There's 3 delegates. The top 3 will win, and so far we have Bill Schuster with first place with 18%. He's running as an uncommitted delegate, and in second place looks like Judith Ward, 16%. I'm not sure who she was for. In third place, looks like we have pretty much almost a tie between Lois Konechny, who's a Donald Trump delegate, and Cody Knotts of Uniontown, who's also a Donald Trump delegate. With Joseph he's 11%. He's actually in third place. So I'm not real sure how many votes total we have there, but right now, Knotts and Krzyzewski are in fourth place. So looks like Trump would just get the Lementia. I'm not sure. I know Ward and Taylor, Knotts, and Lementia were his were his people. Now, you did have David Chow, who's the chairman of the Fayette County Republican Party, and he was a Cruz person. I'm sorry, Deborah Taylor is the Trump person, and Konechny is the Cruz person. So, but Bill Schuster, with him being uncommitted, and then you'd have Deborah Taylor. If these results hold up, Deborah Taylor and Joseph Lemensha were both Trump people, so Trump would get 2 out of the 3, and then Bill Schuster, he would have to decide. Let's look at the Democratic National Convention. We have a couple local people in this race. Now here they did say who they were supporting, and the Republican they weren't committed to anybody. So the 9th Congressional District, we had Fayette County Commissioner Vince Vacides was running, and we also had Jim Davis, who's chairman of the Fayette County Democratic Party. And they both have 11. Looks like Jim has 11.4 and Vince has 11.2. Looks like in first place is Madeline Snyder. Now there's 2 men and 3 women that will go. So basically, Vince Vacides and Jim Davis, I believe, were running against Michael Cordero. So that's it looks like that's going to be pretty pretty close between those 3, and it looks like well that's really close there. So Madeline Snyder in first, 12%. Michael Cordero 11.4. Kathleen Hendricks 11.7. Gillian Kratzer 10. Alexis Walk-Saminsky 10. Melinda Deal 10. And Vince and Jim Davis both with 11. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. I want to go back and look at the presidential, see if we have more of an update here for Pennsylvania here tonight. So, what do you think about Mr. Trump and his showing? Surprising?
He hasn't lost momentum.
Yeah.
Even with his new style of campaigning, he hasn't lost momentum.
So let's see, what was the percentage? Let's look up at the top here. With 43% of the vote in now, we have Hillary Clinton with 56%, Bernie Sanders 42%. Those numbers pretty much staying the same. And Donald Trump 57%, and Ted Cruz 21%, and John Kasich 18%. Let's look at the United States Senator down below. Okay, we got Katie McGinty 45%, Joe Sestak 31%, John Fetterman 23%. And John Fetterman's probably doing better, but Joe Sestak, I'm sure he's very disappointed. Up until about a week or so ago, he was leading her in the polls, but then I think with the endorsements from President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden, and then also Governor Wolf also endorsed her. And she's a former Department of Environmental Protection secretary. But Joe Sestak was a former congressman out in eastern Pennsylvania, and so that's pretty interesting. Looks like McGinty, it's looking more and more like she's going to win the nomination. Attorney General, let's see what we got here. Very close all night here. Josh Shapiro, looks like his lead maybe has increased slightly, 44% to 41%. look at that, 23,000 votes out of almost 600,000. Very, very close. People say their vote doesn't matter. That's kind of disproving that. On the Republican side, we have John Rafferty, 61%, and Joseph Peters at 38%. So let's look at Fayette County, see where the See if we have any more vote totals in for Fayette County. With 60 precincts reporting, we have 75% of the vote in, and Hillary at 58% to Bernie Sanders 40%, and we have Donald Trump 70%. That's pretty amazing that he's been able to power up that kind of a lead. You know, you were hearing things that there was a lot of people locally that were supporting him, but I don't know that you thought it was going to be that much. Also, though, the vote totals seem to be a little low. I'm not sure if there's any problems, but because you have 48,000 Democrats, and we have probably about 10,000 votes, so that's almost like 25%. And then you're looking at the on the Republican side, you have maybe probably turnout's probably a little bit better, but it's you're looking probably about 8,000 votes there, and there's 25,000 Republicans. So maybe we'll see if the turnout picks up, because we thought that the turnout was going to be pretty good for tonight. It'd be interesting to see what the final totals are, but that's not looking too great right there. Let's look at the for Fayette County, the Senate race. Katie McGinty, 51%. John Fetterman, 25%. Once again, John Fetterman doing better than Joe Sestak here, which has to be one of the amazing things of this election. I don't know that anybody really saw that coming. So let's look at the Attorney General here in Fayette County, their results. And Stephen Zappala, 7,534, 69%. The Josh Shapiro is 23%. You know, the problem with that Stephen Zappala has, if this is east-west thing, there's just more people out east. Particularly Montgomery County, where he's from, there's 800,000 people there in that county alone.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, Allegheny County has 1.2 million, but there's other huge counties also out there, Philadelphia, Chester. So we'll see how that shapes up. And then on the Republican ticket, John Rafferty, he's been ahead all night, 62%, to Joseph Peters, 37%. Let's look and see that back at that 9th Congressional District. Art Halverson giving Bill Schuster a run for his money there. This second time that Halverson ran against Schuster. He ran 2 years ago, and it was a 3-person race, and Schuster won pretty handily. Oh boy, this race is tightening up. We have Bill Schuster now with 50%, and Art Halverson with 49%. And it's less than, what is it, about 800 votes out of almost 47,000. So that's very close. You know, Halverson he ran a pretty strong campaign, criticized for being very negative, particularly at the forum that we had, but apparently some of the things he was complaining about must have registered with some of the folks in that 9th Congressional District. Let's look at the legislative races. As we mentioned, we have 3 of them in the representative in the General Assembly. We have the 49th, you have 6 Democrats. We didn't have very many votes there before. We'll see maybe if we have some more votes picked up here. Okay, we have still not many votes. Alan Benyak's leading with 331 votes, 49% of the vote, with 49% of the vote, followed by Dawn Anderson, 26%, Mark Alterisi, 12, Brandon Garai, 4, Robert Kepix, 4, and Randy Barley, 2%. And on the Republican side, we have Melanie Patterson, 339, Donald Cook, 139. Really, those numbers seem pretty low, so I'm not sure if we're not getting the numbers from Washington County in yet. Let's look at the 52nd, where we have a very close race there also. Jim Marai, 50% to Lloyd Williams, 49%. Very close there. You're looking at 70 votes. So that race it's probably too early to call that. Let's see if we have any vote totals for the 58th legislative district yet. Still no vote totals in for that. Let's go back and maybe look at, see what the vote totals are in Washington County. We've been looking at Fayette County throughout the night here. Let's see where how people were voting in Washington County. Okay, President. Well, that kind of explains one thing. We don't have any votes so far out of Washington County. This is a statewide website that we're looking at, so maybe maybe they're having a technical glitch there. Let's take a look at Westmoreland County, see maybe if we have any vote totals from there. There's no vote totals there either. That's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at Greene County. Okay, we do have vote totals in Greene County. We have Hillary Clinton 51 to 45%. Bernie Sanders doing pretty good in Greene County. Much better there than he's doing in Fayette County. And we have Donald Trump in first place, 55%. Ted Cruz, 21%. And John Kasich, 11%. That's probably pretty similar to Fayette County. Let's see where the Senate race for Greene County. Okay, we have Katie McGinty, 47%, and John Fetterman, 27%, and Joe Sestak, 25%. Once again, John Fetterman doing much better than anybody thought that he would be doing. But again, people are probably familiar with him being a mayor of Braddock. He's been on TV over the years numerous times. He did run some ads, but maybe people feeling they know him a little bit better than Joe Sestak. Let's look at the Attorney General. Okay, we have Stephen Zappala, as we figured, his Western Pennsylvania connection. He's winning 66% to Josh Shapiro, 25%. And on the Republican side, we have John Rafferty with 62% to Joe Peters, 37%. So, kind of as we said, that Stephen Zappala doing good in both Fayette and Greene counties, but that may not be enough to overcome the bigger counties out in eastern Pennsylvania. So let's look and see maybe the presidential, see if we have any updates there. Okay, we're up to 47% of the voting now. And Hillary has maintaining 14% lead over Bernie Sanders. Pretty good showing on the whole by Hillary. Of course, her husband Bill won Pennsylvania twice, and back in 2008, Hillary defeated Barack Obama in Pennsylvania, although she did end up losing the nomination to the president, but she did very well in Pennsylvania. She did beat Barack Obama by 10 percentage points, so it looks like it's a pretty good evening for her. And then Donald Trump, 56%. What we've been seeing all night, very good showing on his part, probably one of his better showings actually of the whole primary campaign. And Ted Cruz, 21%, and John Kasich, 18%. So let's see where we're at with the U.S. Senator. Katie McGinty jumped out to a lead there, and she's pretty much held on to it, 11 points over Joe Sestak. It's getting a little bit late in the count there for any hopes of probably her turning that around, 44% to 33%, and John Fetterman, 22%. And Attorney General, we have Josh Shapiro is pulling out now. This had been very close earlier in the night. At one point, Stephen Zappala actually had a lead. But now Josh Shapiro, Montgomery County Commissioner, 46% of the vote. Stephen Zappala, Allegheny County District Attorney, 38%. And John Morganelli, 14%. So more votes coming in. Josh Shapiro extending that lead. It's probably too soon to call that, but that is getting to be, you're looking at 60,000 votes. That's a pretty big difference to make up. And on the Republican side, we have John Rafferty at 63% to Joe Peters at 36%, which has been pretty much running that way all night. John Rafferty, a state senator, Joe Peters, a prosecutor, but Rafferty was backed by the establishment in the Republican Party, and definitely their efforts are paying off tonight. So let's look and see what we got with Fayette County, see if we have any more results in. That's strange about Washington and Westmoreland, no results in yet. So we have Hillary with 58% of the vote in, or 58% of the vote, 70% of the vote in. She has 58% of the vote. Bernie Sanders, 40%. And then on the Republican side, Donald Trump, 70%. And Ted Cruz, 17%. And John Kasich, 10%. You know, it's going to be interesting. We'll look at, like, tomorrow when we'll see what the results look like across Pennsylvania. But Donald Trump Fayette County has to be one of the top counties for him, you would think. He's getting about 56% statewide, but he's getting 70% here in Fayette County. Let's look at the U.S. Senate race. Okay, we have Katie McGinty maintaining her 11-point lead over Joe Sestak, 44% to 33. John Fetterman, 22%. Mr. Fetterman probably doing a little bit better than maybe what people had thought, and probably drawing some support away from Joe Sestak, you would think, with Katie McGinty at 44%. So let's look at that. Let's look at Fayette County again. Okay, let's look at the individual races in Fayette County. We have the U.S. Senator. We have Katie McGinty at 51%, and Joe Sestak 23%, and John Fetterman 25%. And for Attorney General, we have Stephen Zappala 69%, Josh Shapiro 23%, and then on the Republican we have John Rafferty 62%, and Joe Peters 37%. Let's look down a little bit further and see what we have see if there's been any change in the 50. Well, hold on one second. We have Fayette County And we have Bill Schuster with 4,000. He has 63 or 68% of the vote for Fayette County for 31% for Hellerson. So obviously he's doing pretty well here. The only thing is that a lot of the votes for Fayette County probably have been counted. So, but that's interesting. Okay, let's look at the General Assembly, the 49th Legislative District, and that's where we have those numbers really haven't changed. So I'm thinking that might be it for Fayette County. So we're waiting to see what we get from the results in Washington County. Ellen Benyak was an attorney and was spending some money. He had some advertisements, probably more than any of the other candidates. I believe he pretty much doubled anybody's fundraising campaign. Let's look at the 52nd. We'll see if we have anything more there. Still very close. Jim Mariah 50% to Lloyd Williams 49%. We're probably looking at see if we can get any results from let's see if we get anything from Washington or Westmoreland County. That was kind of not sure what the problem is there or what's going on. Still nothing. And let's take a look at Westmoreland County. And still waiting on those results too. Let's go over to Greene County, take another look there. Greene County now with 93% in, and Hillary, Bernie Sanders did much better here than he did statewide. Only a 6% lead in Greene County, where in the rest of the state it was more like 15%. So Bernie Sanders was able to maybe strike a nerve over there in Greene County. And Donald Trump with 65%, that's a little bit less than the 70% he'd been getting in Fayette County, but still pretty much of a massive victory against Ted Cruz, 21%, and John Kasich, 11%. Let's look down the other state races for Greene County. And we had Katie McGinty, 47%, very strong showing there. Joe Sestak, 25%, and John Fetterman, 27%. John Fetterman, pretty interesting showing. I don't think a lot of people thought he would do that well. Or looking then at the Attorney General, and we have Josh Stephen Zappala, 66%, and Josh Shapiro, 25%. And then on the Republican, we have John Rafferty, 62% to Joseph Peters, 37%. So very, as we figured that Stephen Zappala would do well with his Western Pennsylvania ties, but whether that's going to be enough to offset Eastern Pennsylvania, that remains to be seen. So let's look at the presidential race again. Okay, now we're up to 52% of the vote in from statewide, and still Hillary has that 14% total over Bernie Sanders, 56% to 42%. As we said, that's probably a little bit more than what she was predicted, so very good night for Hillary, not such a good night for Bernie Sanders, although he did do, whatever consolation, he did do better in Greene County. He got 45% in Greene County. And we have on the Republican side, we have Donald Trump with 56%. Keep in mind he had 65% in Greene County and 70% in Fayette County. But very big, good night for Donald Trump. Ted Cruz, 21%. John Kasich, 18%. The other candidates still on the ballot, but obviously their campaigns have been suspended. Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, and Dr. Carson. Let's look for U.S. Senator, where Katie McGinty had jumped out to lead early and now has 44%, maintaining 11% lead over Joe Sestak. And that's the odds are getting tougher for Mr. Sestak the longer things go. 22% for John Fetterman. Of course, it's hard to say where the votes are coming from. Maybe you would think that Mr. Sestak would be doing better out in eastern Pennsylvania, but that Fetterman vote, 22%. That's I'm sure Mr. Fetterman is probably happy with that. Let's look at Attorney General. We're close all night, but now Josh Shapiro is starting to get a lead, 46% to 38%. And on the Republican, John Rafferty, who has had a lead all night over Joseph Peters, 63% to 37%. So I want to go back maybe to Fayette County. Well, let's take a look first of all, just see if there's any votes in for Washington or Westmoreland County. I just wonder what is going on there. There must be some kind of computer glitch. We don't have anything from Washington or Westmoreland counties. Okay, let's go back to Fayette County. Okay, we're up to 75, 60 out of 80 precincts reporting, and Hillary 58% to 40%, 18, which is a little bit better than what she's doing statewide, but it is far short of the 79% that she did against Barack Obama back in 2008, and obviously Bernie was able to reach some people here in Fayette County, but not near enough to defeat Hillary Clinton. And as we've been talking about all night, that number that just really stands out at you, Donald Trump 70% of the vote here in Fayette County, Ted Cruz 17%, and John Kasich 10%. You kind of thought that John Kasich might be able to do a little bit better here. The high governor, plus he's from McKees Rocks outside of Pittsburgh. But voters here in Fayette County jumped on board the Trump train and riding it. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see tomorrow, once we see what the other counties from across the state, to see if any county did better than 70% for Donald Trump. Let's look at the in Fayette County. Let's stay here. Go down to the U.S. Senate race. We have Katie McGinty, 51%, and John Fetterman, 25%, Joe Sestak, 23%. Those numbers have not changed pretty much all night. Katie McGinty jumped out to a pretty big lead, and she did have the support of a lot of the party people. Joe Sestak, just his campaign didn't catch on here locally. In fact, he's finishing third behind John Fetterman. And let's look at the Attorney General. Stephen Zappala has been ahead all night, probably based on his Fayette County ties. 69%, Josh Shapiro 23%, and then John Rafferty 62% to Joe Peters 37%. Let's look back at that presidential race again. I just want to kind of see if we could see. I was just curious about the voter turnout, and it still doesn't seem like the numbers really are that much for Pennsylvania. Okay, here's, let's see, what's the percentage on this now for statewide? We're up to 55% now, so the number's pretty much rolling in over half. And Hillary 56% to Bernie Sanders 42%. And on the Republican side, we have Donald Trump 56%, Ted Cruz 21%, and John Kasich 18%. So Donald Trump, a very big night for him. As we said, it would be interesting to see where he really got his strength from across Pennsylvania, but obviously he did pretty well everywhere. I know there was some talk that maybe Kasich might be able to do well in Philadelphia, where the more moderate voters, but that really didn't seem to work out too well. And Ted Cruz was supposed to do well in central Pennsylvania, which is more conservative, but that again didn't seem to do that well. 21% for Ted Cruz. Let's look at United States Senator. We have Katie McGinty maintaining her 11% lead over Joe Sestak, and then John Fetterman at 22%, and Attorney General. Let's see if this is Josh Shapiro is extending his lead now, 46% to Stephen Zappala, 37%, and then third place John Morganelli, 15%. And on the Republican, John Rafferty, 62%, Joe Peters, 37%, and yeah, that race between Shapiro and Zappala pretty much probably was an East-West type thing. Zappala supposedly had gotten some union endorsements in the Philadelphia area, but Josh Shapiro is has a lead, and at one point early on in the night, Stephen Zappala did have the lead, but now he's falling back to Josh Shapiro. So unless Mr. Zappala can turn things around quickly, it's not looking too good there for Mr. Zappala. So let's go back to Fayette County. Let's see if there's anything in from Washington or Westmoreland County yet. No, still nothing. Still waiting. I'm not real sure what. Must be some kind of computer glitch or something there. Let's look at Fayette County, see if we have any more precincts to report there. 75%, that's pretty much what we were reporting. We had Hillary Clinton with 58%, Bernie Sanders 40%, and then on the Republican we have Donald Trump 70%, which has to be one of the highest numbers. He has 56% across Pennsylvania, but real strong showing here in Fayette County with Ted Cruz 17% and John Kasich at 10%. Let's look at Greene County. Greene County with 100% reporting. So Hillary 50%, Bernie Sanders 45%, as we said. That's a little bit better than Bernie did better here than he did elsewhere in the state. It looks like he's losing the state by about 14%, and he's losing in Fayette County by about 18%. So he did pretty good in Greene County. It still wasn't enough for a victory, but at least he did better. And then you have Donald Trump with 65%, and we have Ted Cruz with 21%, and John Kasich with 10%. And let's look down to United States Senator for Greene County. We have 100% of the vote in for Greene County. And we have Katie McGinty 47%, and John Fetterman 26%, and Joe Sestak 25%. So John Fetterman did finish second in Greene County ahead of Joe Sestak. let's look at the Attorney General. We have Stephen Zappala, 65%, Josh Shapiro, 25%, John Morganelli, 8%. As we'd said, Stephen Zappala probably picking up on the Western Pennsylvania support, but unfortunately that's not translating very well for him statewide with Josh Shapiro leading. And we have John Rafferty, 62%, to Joe Peters, 37% on the Republican side. Well, with us tonight is Vince Facilities, Fayette County Commissioner.
Hi, Mark.
Thank you
doing?
Thanks very much for coming in. So what do you think of the results there? What do you make? Hillary, obviously, good night for her, and I know you're a big Hillary Clinton supporter. I think they were saying about a 10%, and she's looking like about 15% right now, and she won Fayette County by about 18%.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, it's not as much as the 79% that she had back in 2008, which I think you said was the best she did across the country.
Absolutely.
I thought it was the best. I knew it was the best in Pennsylvania.
I think that was, every election's different, but that's a solid win for her,
Right.
In Fayette County, and I think she would be pleased with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was what they were. I think statewide they were calling like 16%.
Well,
So she's right in that.
She's right in that range, yeah.
So that was a good win, and
Yeah.
I thought I have a lot on my plate these days, but they called and asked me to be a delegate, the Clinton campaign, and I thought, this is a good thing because if she wins, I'll have a contact to help Fayette County. So
Yeah.
I stepped up and did that
Yeah.
once again. I wasn't planning on it after just running last year, but I thought that would be a help
Yeah.
to Fayette County.
So want to look at those numbers? We
Sure.
looked at them before, and they were very close. It was now there's 2 men and 3 women. Is that?
Yes.
That's
It's tough. It's a 12 county district.
it's
and
a delegate. It's up there.
I don't know how I did in other counties. If I did well in Fayette, that's what I'm.
Right.
That's what I would take a look at.
Delegate to the Democratic National Convention in the 9th District. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's no way of really knowing what percentage of the vote we have here. And of course, you and Jim Davis. Now, Michael Cordero, was he from Fayette County too, or no?
Yes, he
He
was
is?
a Bernie Sanders delegate,
Okay,
I believe.
Okay, so
And a lot of it's ballot position.
right.
That's definitely a factor.
Yeah, see, it's very close.
Yeah, it
Alan
is, yeah.
Snyder, 18,000. Michael Cordero, 17,000. Kathleen Hendricks, 17,000. And we have yourself at 16,000. Jim Davis at 16,000. So
Yeah, we were 7th and 8th on the ballot out of 9. When you get into a race like that, ballot position does count for a good percentage, but it's very close. Yeah, that's
so was there only 3 men running though?
3 men total. Yes,
So just you two and Michael
right.
and Michael Cordero.
And 5, I think total 3 women and 2 men will get elected.
Now, how many of these women were from Fayette County? Do you know?
Just to my knowledge, one, Melinda Deal.
And she has 15,000 votes. So
Yeah, she had 15. Looks like
yeah.
6. Madeline Snyder, of course, is from Greene, and the others are from
Well, like you said, the
other
ballot,
counties
the ballot
further north.
position probably, and she had the
Oh, yeah.
top. She had the top.
Oh, yeah.
So she
That
has-
helps, no
so
doubt
she
about
has
it.
she has the most votes, and Cordero's second. So
How was that? What was the vote in Fayette? Did you have that?
we could take a look. Look at Fayette County. We were talking before. We can't figure it out. We don't have any votes in from Washington or Westmoreland County, but we do. We had all of. We did have all of.
Last time
Greene
I was
County,
looking
yeah.
earlier, maybe about a
Well,
half
get
hour
down,
ago.
Get down further. It's down there. The delegates.
What percentage of the statewide votes are in?
I think it was 55%. Down further. Down. Okay, delegate. There we go. Okay. So 6,000 I think you probably were first there.
Yeah, about 500
Yeah.
votes.
Yeah.
Ahead.
Jim was second, 5,600, and then Madeline Snyder and Michael Cordero.
4,400 for him. Yeah.
Well, that's such a far-flung district. I mean, what do you do? All you can do is campaign here, right? I mean,
Well,
you can't really...
I really didn't campaign in other counties. That's 12 counties. It goes up as far as Altoona, I believe.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. It's pretty far.
Yeah, it's
Pretty-
very
Pretty far
spread
flung
out.
there. So,
I worry about my own county.
well, what
So
do you
I-
think about Donald Trump? Were you surprised? Did you see that 70% of the vote he got here?
No, that doesn't surprise me.
Really.
I think that I saw that trend and
Yeah.
and I
What,
expected
a lot of people
that.
you were talking to. What do you think maybe makes people want to support him here?
I think probably he's outspoken and he's very straightforward.
Yeah.
And I think some people like that.
Because you almost have to think at 70%, he's about 56% statewide. The Fayette County, he may do as well here as he does anywhere across.
It looks
the
that
state.
way, yes.
You know.
And it's going to be an interesting race in the fall. I think Hillary had a solid win tonight, so they'll square off in the fall. And I think nationally she had about a 10-point lead on him.
Yeah.
In the whole country, and I think she had about the same in Pennsylvania.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
I'm thinking that that could tighten up, obviously,
Yeah.
or it could change depending on how the race goes.
Yeah.
It could go either way, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
If he wins the nomination, he needs to get like 65% of the delegates from this point forward
Right.
to be able to win the Republican nomination
Right.
of 1237.
Right.
Um,
Right.
And I think Hillary needed about 27% the rest of the way to win. So.
Right. Right. Yeah. She should go a long way up probably tonight. I'm assuming she won. Did you hear the other states?
I heard she won every state.
Maryland.
Yeah, she won big in
Connecticut,
Maryland.
Yeah, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, she may have lost that.
Huh.
I think Sanders was ahead.
Really?
She won in Delaware and there was
Connecticut.
Connecticut, I think she was ahead. So, so she should win at least, hopefully, 4 out of those
Yeah.
5, maybe 5. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's really tough for Sanders once you get behind in these type of races because it's all based on proportional. So you have to really have an overwhelming victory at some point to get all the delegates. And
It's a rigorous process, but
Right.
I think that this is great that there's competition in this. In past elections, it was sewed up months
Yeah,
ago.
right.
I think competition is good. It helps hone your skills and get your message and make you think about the issues more. So I don't see a downside to either, the major competition that's been on the Republican and the Democrat side. So it makes for a better election and a better country.
Not all too often, Pennsylvania, our primary comes so late that candidates have already been selected. You ever talk to anybody about moving that up at all, or
Well, they
it's
did.
up to the state legislature?
It is moved up from
That May,
from
right.
the regular
Right.
primary,
Right.
but the trouble is everybody else keeps moving up.
Yeah.
Like if you remember 4 or 8 years ago, we were the only primary in April,
In April, right?
and I think that helped us. They came more places
Right.
in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Hillary and Bill were both here back in 2008.
Yes, and
But I think, with having the 4 states, or 5 states actually today, it probably diluted it, although Pennsylvania still was the most important. I know you were hoping to get somebody down here.
Yeah,
but
I
guess it just didn't.
well, we did
quite
get the
work out.
Arkansas Travelers,
Yeah.
but they came pretty close.
Yeah,
They had to decide strategically. I would say Fayette probably delivered a better vote than all the surrounding counties.
right.
I'm thinking. I don't know
Yeah.
for sure, but and they have to go wherever they think they need to do the best.
Right.
If they need to improve somewhere else, Westmoreland has traditionally been a Republican kind of a trending county.
Right.
So I think
Right.
maybe that would be. They were thinking of the fall election.
Yeah.
So they went to Youngwood,
Yeah.
which was pretty close to here.
Right. Right. Yeah. Not that
So they
far.
they go wherever they strategically think they need to go.
Yeah.
Fayette delivered a great vote for her. So I'm sure that they looked at all that before they decided where they were going to go.
Bernie Sanders did a little bit better in Greene County, 45%. I mean, he still lost, but was better than what he did here. Any thought about maybe why he might have done a little bit better there?
I think Fayette County is definitely supportive of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
They remembered her coming here 8 years ago,
Right.
her and Bill Clinton,
Right.
and she, they're watching all that,
Right.
And they know that they care about Fayette County,
Yeah.
and they absolutely knew we did the best
Yeah.
of any county in the
Back
United
in
States
2008,
back
yeah.
in 2008, and so I think people watch that stuff, and that was it was a solid win. It's hard to top that kind of a percentage. Every election different,
Right.
but that was a good win.
What about some of the other statewide races? Katie McGinty looks like she has 11% lead with 55% of the vote. Was that any surprise to you at all?
She came on strong the last 2 weeks, and that's when you want to peak. The last 2 weeks, and I think Sestak maintained the lead. He was always around 33%, but she rose up and took the undecideds. So I would say, she ran a good
Did you see
campaign.
Fetterman finished second both in Fayette and Greene County? That surprised you at all?
No, he was from Western Pennsylvania. He had some good commercials on the
you ever
Pittsburgh
meet him?
media. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I've met him once.
What do you think of him?
He's straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very straightforward, and he was a grassroots type
Yeah.
guy. So his message did resonate to a degree, but it's a big state. Pennsylvania is very diverse, and I think they knew he was from Western Pennsylvania, so that helped a lot.
Yeah.
In his efforts, just like Stephen Zapala.
Right. Yeah, he did well in Fayette and Greene, but
75%.
But he's not doing so good out east.
Yeah.
And overall, it looks like Shapiro's starting to pull away from him now.
Yeah. That often happens. It's sometimes east versus west, and then in between, whoever gets the vote in between is usually the winner. And it depends on the turnout in Philadelphia. If the turnout's good in Philadelphia, that really bolsters.
Did you ever meet Zapala?
I know him well.
Yeah.
Steve Zapala and I have known each other for a number of years.
Yeah.
He's a good DA. He's done
Yeah.
a good job in Allegheny County with the crime problem there, and he ran a good campaign. It's
Well, the
just hard
problem is
statewide.
anybody from Western Pennsylvania, there's just more people out east, right?
That's what I was saying about Philadelphia. If
Yeah.
they get the turnout and they have the numbers.
You have those counties even surrounding Philadelphia County, Chester, Montgomery.
Yes.
That's where Shapiro's.
Particularly in
from.
a presidential race, always presidential races turn out bigger votes than a normal statewide election for maybe governor or one of the row office elections, the attorney, auditor general. In an off year.
Right.
In a presidential year, if they turn out in the eastern part of the state, it's tough to beat. That voter turnout.
Right.
From a Western Pennsylvania candidate.
Yeah.
Neither were endorsed by the Democratic State Committee, but neither got the majority to get the 2/3 vote that you need on state
you on
committee.
the Democratic
Yes,
State?
I've been on
You
that
are?
for 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been to 3 Democratic National Conventions, so I've been to a lot of them. And
Were you at the last one?
yes,
No.
no.
No. I was
08.
08.
I was in 2000. I was in Los Angeles. I was in Boston in 2004 and Denver in 2008. But I did not go to the last 2.
And this one's going to be in Philadelphia.
Or the last one.
Right.
Yeah, it's in Philadelphia.
Well, at least it won't be. I would have to go cross country.
Yeah, it's a little bit closer, but quite expensive.
Yeah.
For a 4 or 5 day stay in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We pay our own way, by the way.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not. So it was competitive, and I thought it'd be a good idea for me to do this because when they asked me, to get slated for a
Yeah.
delegate is not easy. When they asked me to do it, I figured I'm going to do this because if she would happen to win, I'd have a connection to help Fayette County.
Right.
So that's why I did
That's
it.
good.
Let's look at, see if we have anything, what's the latest update from Pennsylvania for the presidential? We're getting 60% of the vote in. We have Hillary with 56% to 42%. That's what we talked about.
Mhm.
That 15% range was probably, what they were predicting. So they Those pollsters, those guys are pretty.
Yeah,
they're pretty
they're right on.
accurate.
Yeah, they have a margin of error of 3
Yeah.
to 4%.
I
So
think that's a little bit better though than what Trump was supposed to be doing. Was that your thought, or was that what you were hearing? 57 to 20%.
they're very close. If you look, he's 57, she's 56 and a half. So
Yeah,
it went down a little bit from the from the 70, but still
Right.
that's a good vote. 3-person race versus a 2-person race.
right.
So
Yeah,
it was competitive in Pennsylvania. I think like New York, I think Trump got about 60%, or a little over 60% in New York. Hillary got about 58 in New York. So it's pretty close.
yeah. Let's look at U.S. Senator. And, well, it's about 10% now. McGinty over Sestak, 44 to 34%. And John Fetterman, 20%. You surprised that Fetterman got 20%, or is that what you were thinking or hearing? Or?
I think he did better than expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking more or less, 11, 12. So
Yeah.
he surpassed that.
Yeah.
Sestak never really peaked any more than that 32, 33, 34%. So
Did you-
she got the undecided.
Do you ever meet Sestak?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's been to Fayette County
Yeah.
in his past race.
He actually came to Herald-Standard before he the year before he ran. He was he stopped by, and we were we talked. I mean he gave Pat Toomey a real good race back in 2010.
It was only a couple percent difference. And
Yeah,
I think there was a better turnout. It looks like on the Republican side in Pennsylvania than the Democratic side. I'm just observing that by the vote count. I'd like to see that breakdown. But
yeah.
maybe that was the case even in
Well, even
Fayette.
it didn't look like the turnout was all that great in Fayette County on the Democratic side.
I checked that the other day. It was 48%
Yeah.
in 08.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was
It's not
this
40,
time.
It doesn't seem 48%. We got some precincts out, so we'll see. Maybe that'll pick
We were
up.
thinking about 40.
Yeah.
That it would end up around 40%. So it is definitely a little lower than.
Yeah. So
That's a
you look-
problem.
Yeah. So you see
gotta-
75%. So, I mean, you figure that's what, 15,000 out of 48. So that's about a third.
Yes.
Yes. So that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have thought that would have been higher. Now on the Republican side, that might be 10,000. That's probably a little bit better because I think they got about 25,000, right? Republican.
25,000 Republicans, 49,000 Democrats.
Yeah. So you're
little under
looking
two,
you're
huh?
looking probably at least 40% turnout on the Republican side, a little bit better than on the
Yes.
on the Democratic side. And I guess to some degree, it may be that people might feel that Hillary kind of already hasn't won, where that Republican might feel like it's a little more competitive. And
That's
particularly if
possible.
the Trump people, and apparently they did get their people out. At 69% dropped down from 70%, where it's been pretty much all night.
It was a little higher. I think last time I saw, before it came down, it was about 20,000 Democratic voters out of 48. Probably a little more now. That'll go up with the 75%. That was probably about 60-some%.
Okay, let's look at the Senate. And like we said before, McGinty, this is in Fayette County, 50% to John Fetterman, 25, and Sestak, 24. You surprised that Fetterman beats Sestak here in Fayette County?
There again, Western PA.
Yeah.
if you look at the numbers for Steve Zapala, he had double that.
Yeah.
You know, he was from Western PA.
Right.
And I think people know these candidates, where they're from.
Right.
That means
Right.
something to them. I
Right.
think the home area.
What do you think about McGinty? I assume you probably met her somewhere along the line.
Yes,
too,
I
right?
have. She used to
Yeah.
be involved Democratic State Committee,
Ah.
and I think I've met her a few times. And
She was also the DEP secretary, right?
yes, for a
Pennsylvania.
while, yeah, for under Rendell.
How do you think she'll do against Toomey?
I think that'll be an interesting race in the
Yeah.
fall. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. And you know, just depends on how the race goes.
Yeah.
The trends.
Yeah.
Toomey seemed to have done well tonight, though.
Yeah.
He got 10,351 votes in Fayette County. It appears. So.
Yeah.
No opposition, but
Right.
still 10,000. You know, that's his
Voted for him.
baseline
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Let's look at the Attorney General, and of course that's what we were talking about. Stephen Zapala here tonight, 70% here, 23% for Josh Shapiro, and 6% for Morganelli.
Couldn't ask for any better than that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
from a 3-person race.
Right. Right. And then on the Republican side, John Rafferty, 62% to Joe Peters, 37. And Rafferty, the state senator, had the support of the Republican.
Josh Shapiro, I know him. He's a Montgomery County commissioner, and he's well known in the eastern part of the state.
Yeah.
Young guy that is very charismatic, and he ran a good campaign. Steve Zapala had a lot of experience as a prosecutor,
Right.
and he was from Western PA, and you know, it was a hard-fought race. And then you had that third person in the race, John Morganelli, who comes from out east as
Yeah,
well.
Northampton,
Northampton,
this district attorney. I think they said he's been the longest serving district attorney in Pennsylvania. I think he ran too against Tom Corbett.
Yes,
Corbett
yes.
ran for
Yeah, that was a few years back.
Attorney General. So let's see. Let's go back to Pennsylvania. Well, let's see if we have any update. We haven't got anything from Washington or Westmoreland counties tonight. I'm not real sure if they're having some kind of computer glitch. We still don't have anything there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what. I'm not sure what the problem is. But let's
Nothing
go.
from Washington.
No, nothing from Washington or Westmoreland. What do you think of the Marai and Lloyd Williams race there?
Very, very close. Last
Yeah.
I saw it was under 100 votes.
Yeah. Yeah.
2,200 to 2,100.
Right.
And I don't know how that ended up. And the winner will go on and face Ryan Warner,
Right.
Current state representative Republican on the
Think the
in the
Democrats have
52nd.
a chance to get that seat back?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you know, these races again, or you know, depending on the campaign you run and the efforts you put forth, and obviously Fayette County is a Democratic county,
Yeah.
and then it goes into Westmoreland. So,
Right.
You know that
Right.
that Westmoreland Scottdale has a definite you know, it has a plural, a little bit of votes there that are
Right.
could make a difference. So you can't overlook that. You know.
Yeah, and I think Warner did really well in Westmoreland County the last time. I think it was pretty split.
Going against
I'm sorry, I
A.J.
didn't mean to
Bonnet.
turn my
No,
back
that's
on
okay.
you.
Going against A.J. Bonnet.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, he won all the Westmoreland County parcels.
Right.
I think it was about an 800 vote difference there, and that did help him because the whole election ended up being like 700 votes, so
Okay.
that put him over the top
It
in
did.
that race. Yeah, so you can't overlook that, you know.
Right.
The party really put a lot of money behind, I would imagine, a lot of money behind Warner.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially, I remember the commercials. If you recall, there was someone driving down a pickup truck in a road. And the voiceover over that was kind of a Southern gentleman, an older Southern gentleman guy saying things like, "He's one of we finally have. He's one of us." And then that he was in office. That was the first time he ran for political office.
Well, sometimes that's an advantage these days. You
Sure.
know, I mean, you
The outsider.
you know, I mean, people are.
But you don't
Depends on the
you don't have-
election.
you don't have a record either.
No,
True.
it was true.
Be
Good,
careful
bad,
what
or
you wish for
otherwise.
sometimes.
Yes.
You know. You know, I mean that record can be helpful in determining or Yeah.
He had been my neighbor
Turner.
for the longest
Turner.
time.
I think that last race, he and A.J. Bonney were both from the Perryopolis area.
Yes.
But, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we got 62% of the vote in now, and it's still Clinton, Sanders, 13% now. It's maybe,
That's statewide?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
statewide. And Donald Trump 56%, Ted Cruz 21%, John Kasich 19%. Probably not too much of a change. Not too much is going to change in here. Now we got 62% of the vote in. Let's look at the Senate. We have McGinty at 44 to 34%, which is basically not changed much. And Fetterman 20% is, we said maybe that's a little bit more than what people thought he was going to get. Maybe some of that came at the expense of Joe Sestak. Hard to.
That's what
say.
they were. That was the consensus that Joseph Vodvorka would take away from Joe Sestak and Fetterman as well. So it appears to be what happened.
Mm-hmm. But McGinty did have the endorsement from President Obama and
Yes.
Vice President Joe Biden and Governor Wolf and all that did seem to.
As well as Shapiro.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, they had the
Right.
same endorsements.
Yeah. So, and then for Attorney General, and Stephen, Josh is definitely pulling away now with 13%. At one point during the night, and it may have been that the first votes came in from Western Pennsylvania, but Zapala did have a lead, but Shapiro now has pretty much of a commanding lead, 13%.
If that vote from Philadelphia came in, that would only, if it didn't, it would only increase the lead.
Right.
If it did already, then it could tighten up, but it looks like it's a comfortable lead.
Yeah, 13%. Yeah, it's just like you said. I mean, particularly in presidential races, you get a lot of the people out in that Philadelphia area, get a lot of them voting, and then that makes it tough for somebody from Western Pennsylvania because we just don't have as many people as they do.
If their percentage is anywhere close to what we turn out here, they usually win because of their
Just
numbers.
the sheer numbers, right? And you have John Rafferty at 63% to Joe Peters at 37%. So let's take a look at the Fayette County, see if we have any more of an update. No, we still have 20 precincts.
What's the
60
percentage?
out of 75%. We got 60 out of 80.
Can we take some of those local races, or the local, the rep races? I know there was a tight race in the 49th district. Alan Benyak
Right.
was running against a few others.
Go ahead, go down further. We were looking at this earlier. Well, let's see. None of these numbers have really changed. Well, what do you think about Schuster?
Solid win.
Yeah.
7,300 to 3,300.
But it's pretty close in the district.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, go ahead to 49th. But see, these numbers, well, they have changed a little bit now. They must have got a few more precincts in for Fayette County. And Alan Benyak, 53%, and Don Henderson, 23%. So,
From what I was told, Benyak did well in the other counties. So I think he is going to be the winner there.
Yeah, Charleroi attorney, he was spending more money than the other candidates. So
yeah, from what I've heard, from the input I've gotten, that he carried the other counties. So the win he had in Fayette carried, obviously, in his percentages in the other counties, he is going to be the winner there.
And then you have Melanie Patterson with 718. And you had Donald Cook, 27%. So
competitive race.
Right.
There again, that's good for the people.
Let's look at that 9th congressional district.
More competition.
Let's go back to, let's go for the whole district. See if we have any more of an update on that. representative in Congress.
Yeah, they said that was closer. Huh?
Yeah, it was very close before. It seems like Schuster's lead has expanded somewhat now,
That is
51% to 48. Unfortunately, we really don't have much of an idea of how many districts that includes now.
Well, it looks like to me, I mean, with that kind of a race and the win that he had in Fayette by 4,000, that may have helped him get over the top. Here.
Right. Yeah, he did very well in Fayette County, and of course he is well known in Fayette County. He represented part of Fayette County from 2000 to 2010, and since then he's represented the whole county. And Halverson really is not known in Fayette County at all. So
and there's no Democratic candidate on the ballot
Right.
at this point unless
Right.
they get a 1,000 write-ins.
somebody gets enough for
There's been
write-in.
discussion about that.
Right.
Yeah, I had heard that they were trying to mount something from different county chairmen that I talked to, but I don't know that 1,000 write-ins. I don't know if they succeeded in
Right.
getting a candidate on the
You
ballot.
would think that in one way that might not be that hard, but then in another way it could be, because the district is just so far flung. It's you almost would have to get that 1,000 in Fayette, Greene, and Washington too, because that's where the Democrats are.
And yeah, that's true. And the spelling of the name,
Right. Has to be. Yeah.
the diversity of different ballots and what how you write somebody in. It's quite confusing.
It's very difficult. Well, can you tell just by looking at the votes? You have any idea maybe how?
I don't know where
far
those
along
are from. I know Fayette's part of that.
The total vote number, does that seem like that's anywhere maybe halfway? You think, or?
Well, you said 75%.
Right.
I don't know what's
Fayette.
still
Yeah,
out.
yeah, it's hard to tell.
But if Fayette was that margin or a little more, that means that the other counties were closer, the ones that are in at this
Right.
point. So that's very close.
Right.
I'm really surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, because last time I think there was 3 candidates, but Schuster did very well. So, but yeah, it is kind of funny though, because it's one of those. It's so far flung, and we really don't get a feel for what these people in the other parts of the district out in Franklin County and what their thoughts. Maybe they didn't think. Maybe they weren't that happy with Schuster. I think generally people here.
That's too close to call, in my
yeah.
opinion, at this point.
Yeah.
Depending on what other 25% are still out.
Right.
If it's his area, then
Right.
it may not be as close, but
Yeah.
depending on what.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just so hard to tell, like what even what areas may be more favorable towards Schuster than towards Halverson. So
Most of the counties, other than Washington County and Greene, or more
Republican.
It's 70% Republican. The district,
right,
and 30% Democrat by registration.
right. Yeah. Well, you want to look at let's look at for Pennsylvania as a whole. See if we got any more. We're still pretty much at 70% now. Okay, let's take a look and see if anything's changed. Hillary still has her, well, it's down to about 12% now, but that's still a pretty good victory for Hillary. I would
Absolutely.
Think,
Yeah, when you're running 5 states in one night, and,
anything 10% or more has to be considered a good job.
there's 189 elected delegates in Pennsylvania, so with that margin, she should get a decent share of those.
Right.
And
that's all she needs is to keep that momentum going.
She has I think you need 2,300 and a little bit over 2,300 delegates, and she'll have well over 2,000 now with these 5 states, I'm sure.
And then looking at Donald Trump, 57% to Ted Cruz, 21%, and John Kasich, 19%. And let's look at the United States Senator. We have Katie McGinty, again, 10% lead over Joe Sestak, and John Fetterman, 21%. And let's look at Attorney General, see if there's any change there. 10% now. Josh Shapiro or Stephen Zappala.
10%.
That's pretty difficult.
It's narrowed a little bit, but still that's a
considerable.
decent margin
Right.
for
And then
Shapiro.
John Rafferty, 62% to Joe Peters, 36%. So let's go back and just see if we got anything in from Washington or Westmoreland counties. We're still waiting to see. Got a couple legislative races.
You're right.
Westmoreland we do. Okay, we got 97% in. Now we got Hillary 54%, Bernie 44%. So Bernie did a little bit better in Westmoreland than he did in.
And she went to Westmoreland, and she
Yeah.
still won Fayette by more. So
Yeah.
it's probably what they were looking at, when they went there.
And Donald Trump got 62%, which not as good as he did in Fayette County, but he did better than he did statewide at 56%. Ted Cruz 20%, John Kasich 15%. Let's look at the go down to the see how they had Senate. They had Katie McGinty 39%, Joe Sestak 24%. Look at John Fetterman 36%.
That's amazing.
Holy cow! He almost beat. He almost
That's
Yeah.
you're right. You're right.
And Westmoreland County has 400,000 people, so that's a big county.
He did very well.
Holy
there.
cow! No wonder Joe Sestak didn't win, huh?
Yeah, he cut into that boat.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Let's go down. Let's go back. Let's go back to the state legislative races because now we should have for that 40. Well, for the 58th, we'll definitely have that.
Yeah, that's Westmoreland.
Right.
A lot of
That's,
Westmoreland.
yeah. Well, it's all Menneson. That's where Ted Harhigh.
That's no longer in Fayette, I don't believe.
No.
They're,
No.
The 49th is, but
Right.
not the 59th.
Right. Yeah, they took that out back in
They had a few in there.
2010. Yeah. So yeah, this is a race between Ted Harhigh retiring after 20 years. 49th, no, we still don't have anything in from Washington County. There's no real.
As you can
I
see,
think Benyak still has the lead. Yeah. But go down to the. Well, let's see. The 52nd. This should be pretty much Jim Marai. He's got. You would think that's five percentage points. That's probably. It's
is
pretty
that
close.
Fayette there?
Well, this is cumulative.
Cumulative, okay. So
So-
you see both unopposed, Tim Mahoney had
Right.
5,877, and Matthew Dowling, unopposed, had 4,982.
Yeah. And they say that's kind of the baseline
Yeah,
of where you start from. So.
difference of about 900 there.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks like. Would you say that? Well, I guess we're still not sure. But yeah, it's been very close all night. 1%, and now it's up to 5%.
Looks like Marai has a 39.54 to 35.43. So
Almost 400 votes.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. Let's go down to the 58.
Warner had 55.81 there.
Yeah. And there we have Mary Popovich. Pretty big win there, 75%, 6,019. Charles Merlack, 24%, 1,937. Mary Popovich, the mayor of West Newton.
She ran a strong race.
Right.
After James Mandarino dropped out,
right.
she came on strong, and she got a good vote, 6,000.
Yeah, it's
19.
kind of funny in this race because you only had two people running, and you think maybe people were scared off because of the Mandarino name.
I don't know. I'm surprised his name's not up there because he dropped out, but his name was still on the ballot.
Right.
So I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, but
At least I thought it was.
yeah, it just it kind of makes you wonder if maybe more people would have run if they would have known he wasn't going to run. Because
Probably right.
Mandarino name was so big.
Yes.
His grandfather was the longtime legislator up there.
It probably kept a few out of it.
Right.
Um,
But
I would think, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
usually when it's an open seat and it's wide open, you would have more, yeah. And he definitely had a name recognition, but decided not to run a spirited campaign. So.
right, right. Let's look back and just see if we got anything more from Fayette. We'll kind of winding things down here. We'll, if we don't, we'll probably, 100% now.
Oh,
Okay,
Fayette,
so
okay.
we got Hillary with 17% win in Fayette County. You got to feel
Absolutely.
pretty good about that.
That's a solid win. That's actually more than she got in New York.
Yeah,
I think it was 16 in New York. So Pennsylvania, I think it was 55, 42, or 12%. So I think
Yeah, she did
17,
better
5%
here
more
than
is
she
a solid win.
Yeah. And you have Donald Trump with 69%. Again, very,
It's convincing.
very convincing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you had Ted Cruz 18% and John Kasich 10%. Let's look at the Senate race. Katie McGinty 50%. John Fetterman beating Joe Sestak 25 to 24% here in Fayette County. Attorney General.
Ginty 50%, so
Yeah.
she did well in a 4-person race.
And you have
Congratulations
Zapala
to her.
69%, Shapiro 23%, but
Yeah, 11,000.
just was not enough. Let's go down a little bit further, since we have all the for the 9th congressional district. See Bill Schuster 7,314,
4,000.
68% to 31%. This might very Fayette County may have really put him. put
His
him
margin
over
in the
that-
district was
put-
75 was
put him
less
over-
than that margin. So
Yeah, put him over the top.
that
Let's go
helped.
down a little bit further. Yeah, we had these Benyak 53%.
That's the northern end of the county,
Right.
North of 201, the 49th district. Franklin, Jefferson, Fayette City,
Knoll,
Washington
I think.
Township, Knoll,
Yeah.
north of 201.
And Melanie Patterson. We'll still have to see about the Washington County results there. And we didn't have anything the last time we looked. Let's look down. We
I
have
think
the
she's pretty much gonna
delegates
win
for
that.
the convention here.
Oh no.
We have the 52nd, and that's all in. So we have Mariah, Jim with 53% to Lloyd 46%.
500 votes,
Yeah,
basically.
So
A little
that-
under 500.
that should probably hold him in, good standing there.
Warner's 47-41s,
So
unopposed.
yeah, the Democrats will definitely have to unite to
And that's important in any
Yeah,
race when
right.
you have a
right.
competitive race.
Yeah, so Mr. Mariah will have to try and get Mr. Williams' people to support him. Go down further, we have
That's important.
here's the delegates, and we have Mr. Vasides, who looks like you took first place there, Vince.
Thank you. Thank you.
9,173. Jim Davis, 8,364. Michael Cordero, 6,553. And among the women, what'd you say? Melinda Deal was
In Fayette,
Fayette. She had
7,200.
Yeah, looks like she got, well, that Madeline Snyder had the most. Of course, that first ballot probably accounted for a lot of that.
Well, that's
Did you say
I'm really
three?
happy about that. Fayette
Three.
County is what I focus
Three.
on.
Three women. So
Even
that-
though the Herald-Standard's been I'm grateful. Thank you.
Love taps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to see that for probably tomorrow.
It's been a rough 6 months. Just kidding, Mark.
So let's take a look at Westmoreland County and see if we have the full results in yet there.
We didn't have any. Yeah, those were in.
98%. Okay, well, let's go down to that ninth, they do have the ninth congressional district race. Let's see where. I don't think it's very much though, in that Schuster did win 68-31, but I think it's pretty much Menneson and maybe Rostraver or something. It's not. There's not a lot of that district in Westmoreland County.
Which one is that?
Ninth.
The ninth. No, it's partially in that.
Yeah,
not a whole lot.
I think it's just like Menneson.
Not a whole lot of
maybe
Greene
Rostraver.
or Washington.
Right.
They were just parts, but it's all
Right.
Fayette.
Right. So let's look down for the legislative for the 52nd. Okay. Well, Lloyd Williams, 153-46. But look at that, it's only 48 votes.
It's pretty close, yeah.
So, because most of that district is in Fayette County, I think, right?
Yeah. Just Scottdale and
few
East
places,
Huntington Township,
yeah.
I believe, is in
Yeah.
Westmoreland in that district. That's it. That's all of Westmoreland. That's any of the parts of Westmoreland. Looks like Warner got 840 there.
Yeah, now that's in Westmoreland, so
Just Westmoreland.
that does give you an indication that that area is maybe more Republican than even the voter registration numbers, which
But it's interesting though. 2 Democrats won the county commissioner seats in Westmoreland County this
Yeah.
last election in 2015. What were the delegates? I'm just curious. Got a ways to go yet.
there we go.
Well, up in Westmoreland, Vince, was the female one as commissioner?
Yes, Gina Sorelli and Ted Kopis. They took the majority from the Anderson won on the Republican, but the other gentleman lost.
Okay.
I think
Well,
his
you
name
did
was
pretty good
Conrad.
in Westmoreland there, Vince. You got 858, and Jim had 822, and Cordero had 628. So, we could go back and look at the cumulative thing. Look back in the offices, and we can see where the down there for the delegate for the Democratic National Convention. And we have the 9th. Now, I have no way of knowing where this is
Where they're
at.
coming from. Yeah.
But
That's very close.
22,000, Jim has 23, and
And
Cordero
that
has
is close.
23. Yeah, see that
It's all, and I don't know if Washington's in yet.
Cordero is the second, so that ballot position you got to think really.
Yeah, that's
probably
very
did
close
help
there.
him. Yeah, it is very very close. Yeah, and unfortunately we have no idea
When the deal
what
is.
that percentage is.
3 women and 2 men will make it.
Right.
I don't think Washington's in though.
Yeah, let's go back and see if we have anything from them yet. Nope, I don't know what the problem is. Well, I think that's pretty much going to wrap up our show tonight. I want to thank
Thank you.
Vince Basides, Fayette County Commissioner, for coming in, and wish you good luck. I guess you'll find out tomorrow
Yeah.
whether you won that race for the delegate, but I know you were a supporter of Hillary Clinton, and
Absolutely.
so you have to be very happy with her
Oh yes.
showing tonight. So
And I appreciate you having me on. I enjoyed being here, and this is a good thing you do here to inform the voters of the outcome of this. Thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you Bill,
You're
for
welcome.
coming on and lending. Thanks to Jim for and Todd here for helping us out here. Appreciate it. And I want to thank you for watching. My name is Mark O'Keefe. I'm the editorial page editor for the Herald-Standard, and we'll see you later.